Congress in November. However, the most interesting aspect of today's election activity isn't so much the winners, it's the spenders. The Center for Responsive Politics says that in post-Citizens United world, loosely regulated outside groups have spent more than $100 million this year, a new record. And we're not talking about big spending where you might expect it in swing states. In fact, nowhere is the influx of outside money more apparent than in the tight GOP Senate primary race in the decidedly non-swingy state of Mississippi, where the Sunlight Foundation reports that groups have collectively spent $8 million so far. That's $6 million more than the next most expensive primary race, and about twice as much as has been spent by the two campaigns, six-term incumbent Senator Thad Cochran and Tea Party challenger Chris McDaniel. Perry Bacon is a senior political reporter with NBC News and comes to us from Jackson, Mississippi. And Nicholas Confessori is a political reporter for the New York Times. And Perry, I will start with you there in Mississippi. What is all that spending buying? Is it essentially that you cannot turn on the television without being bombarded by ads, or are these campaigns putting it into the field?
It's mostly about TV ads. I was watching morning TV this morning, and for Chris McDaniel in particular, I saw 3 different ads. They were bashing Thad Cochran, none of which McDaniel's campaign paid for, all of which from various conservative groups, Senate conservative funds, and others. So it's particularly for his campaign. That money is going to ads, basically arguing Thad Cochran has been in the Senate too long. That's the entire focus of the ad campaign is Thad Cochran too long in the Senate. He's the establishment, et cetera, et cetera.
And what's weird, just really quick to stay with you, Perry, is that so Cochran's response seems to be to kind of run on the fact that he's been in Congress a long time and say, hey, just flip the Congress so I can be in charge. Let me let you listen real quick to Mr. Cochran.
With a Republican majority, as chairman of the Appropriations Committee, I can help stop wasteful spending and make sure our conservative principles are at the forefront of our policy decisions.
And of course, Perry, the irony there being that the Appropriations Committee is the spenders in Congress. Is the irony, how's that irony working down there in Mississippi?
It's an irony Cochran has to deal with. He's already going to win the votes of people who want to make sure their senator brings money back home. No, Cochran is skilled at that. When I was on the trail yesterday, what was striking was how much he was trying to say, I'm for repealing Obamacare. I'm going to be, as the appropriations chair, stopping spending, which is a kind of a silly thing to say, except if your focus is on trying to woo these Tea Party conservatives who are a little nervous about you. Cochran has a very soft-spoken tone, but he was very much, being loud and proud about how he too wants to repeal Obamacare, like the rest of the Republicans.
And so, Nick, what is really strange, I mean, you've written a lot about this sort of big money in politics and how it's all flooding in, but it's all flooding into the same old campaign tactics. This could have been a campaign in 1989, right? This whole idea of wasteful spending, and I'm going to be the one to cut spending, even as the chair of the Appropriations Committee. Is it ironic to you that all of this money isn't buying any new tactics?
Well, it's a logical consequence of Citizens United. We're watching all this money migrate out of the parties, out of the candidates, into these outside groups. That's where all the heavy artillery is now. They can raise a lot more money, and so they can spend a lot more money. What we're seeing here, really, though, in a lot of ways, is kind of a classic Tea Party establishment primary. You have the longtime incumbent who is kind of puzzled that, being the appropriations chair isn't considered this fantastic credential for a home state senator.
Right.
And now he has to kind of rebrand himself as the guy who's also the appropriate chair, but also the budget cutter at the same time. And it shows you how quickly these wins have shifted around Republicans like Cochran.
Yeah, and obviously he's also saying, hey, I'm Ted Cruz's guy, I'm Mike Lee's guy, I've got Rand Paul. He's sort of stacking the deck, that he's got all the Tea Party. But is this, in fact, Tea Party outside group spending that we're seeing in these are not swing states. These are Republican states where the outcome in the fall is predetermined. Does it seem rational? I mean, or do people you talk to who are in the donor world think that that's rational?
It's actually highly irrational, because this seat will probably be a GOP seat no matter who wins this primary. It's a good lean for them, right? But it's also the place where the Tea Party groups and some of the other conservative groups, Club for Growth, for example, which is not a Tea Party group, they can really make their mark. Their goal is not to win the general election, but to reshape the GOP. and shift its own principles over to the right. So in that sense, these campaigns are very, very effective for them.
Okay, so Perry, I have to ask you about a strange thing that's going on down there, and hopefully you can explain it to me. And this is from the Clarion Ledger newspaper. Apparently there's a full-page ad that's asking Democrats to vote for Thad Cochran, to vote for the incumbent. It appeared in the Mississippi Link, which is a weekly newspaper that's aimed at the African-American community. What is that about, and can Democrats vote in this Republican primary?
So Mississippi, the way it works is it doesn't register voters by party. So you can show up and you've been voted, if you voted for Obama, Bill Clinton, et cetera, you can still show up today and decide, I want to vote in the Republican primary and vote for McDaniel or Cochran. And Cochran knows that he's kind of the hero from Hurricane Katrina time. If black voters vote in this primary, it's not clear they will, but if they did, they would vote for him. In fact, he was asked in the trail about this yesterday, Senator Cochran, are you behind this? And he said no, but he also emphasized, I'm happy with anyone who wants to vote in our primary. I'm not going to tell people who to vote for or when to vote or how to vote. He's keeping open that possibility of having a few Democrats lift him over the line, and McDaniel's been attacking him on this very issue because this ad is funded by a group that's a pro-Cochran group. It's not the Cochran campaign, getting to the point again of we don't know where the spending comes from in this campaign. For many, it's all outside group spending. And with that said, this specific ad is a pro-Cochran group trying to encourage a few Democrats to support Cochran and put him over the line.
And what's crazy, Nick, okay, just back to the irrationality point here. Part of what they're trying to tell African Americans is vote for him because, hey, you want to know who saved SNAP? And sort of trying to woo African American voters with spending, precisely the thing that his opponent is running against him for. I don't really see the point of any of this. It seems irrational to me and crazy.
Well, listen, there's one thing here, and he can't control the campaign that this two-pack is running for him. And it's actually a classic illustration of some of the pitfalls here. You don't control your own message when these outside groups are coming on here spending millions and millions of dollars on your behalf.
Yeah, and just lastly, to you, Perry, what are the polls looking like? Is Thad Cochran in trouble in Mississippi?
Oh, he's definitely in trouble. Polls show very close race, photo finish. We don't know who's going to win. It seems as if McDaniel has a little bit of the momentum. That scandal does not seem to have hurt him as much as I thought it would, but it's very close. I talked to the Republican chairman here yesterday. He just wasn't sure who was going to win either. This is not a race. This is not going to be like Bevin and McConnell, which was very decisive. It'll be much closer. And no matter if Cochran wins or loses, this is a sign. The Tea Party, if they come into a small state like this, spend a lot of money, they can push an incumbent to the edge, and they've really done that here.
Amazing. Southern politics. It seems to be a theme this campaign season. All right, Perry Bacon, Nick Conversore, thank you both for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
all right,
Joy.
Next, gun rights advocates are up in arms, battling each other over how to get their message out. Why the NRA says these latest PR stunts have crossed the line.